Today I'm going to show you guys how to install sway bars or anti-roll bars on your Traxxas Slash. It's really not too hard of a job. The instructions that are included are pretty good, and it'll apply also to the aftermarket kits too, not just the Traxxas brand kits. I've already got the body off here, and I'm going to zoom in and show you a couple different angles so you can really see what's going on. This is not a Traxxas Slash Ultimate. Obviously, it's got the high ground clearance chassis, but the process is going to be the same for both. This is what's going to come in the kit if you buy the Traxxas part number that I'll put in the description. The only difference is if you buy the aftermarket stuff, you're going to get a few extra sway bars. So we have our 4 little screws here, our hold down screws for the sway bars. We have our 4 links, 2 long ones and 2 short ones. And then we've got our chrome and black sway bars. The black ones are heavier and the chrome ones are a little bit lighter. So just depending on the kind of driving you're going to be doing, that's going to dictate which one you want. You're going to want the heavy bars for road driving, and you're going to want no bars or lightweight bars for off-road, just depending on what you're doing. If you're at the track, that's one thing. It's all going to come down to the surface that you're driving on and tires and things like that. We'll go ahead and move the car into frame, and we'll start installing these parts. The first thing we're going to want to do is not in the instructions, but that is going to be to put thread locker on the little set screws on our links here. This is an important step. It's going to keep you from losing these little grub screws and having to search for them. Probably not going to find them. So I recommend getting some blue thread locker and going ahead and backing out each one of these little tiny screws. They're going to be a 1.5 millimeter Allen, and just put a very small dab of blue Loctite on each one of these things. If you use the red, you're not going to get them off. So tiny bit of blue, and you should be good. Just get a little dab on there and then thread it back in. And go ahead and do that to all 4. Okay, once you've got your Loctite on all 4 of your grub screws, then we can go ahead and put them on the sway bars. This sway bar here is going to be for the front, and then this one is for the rear. The short arms go to the front sway bar, and the long arms go to the rear. So what we're going to do is get our 1.5, and we also need a 5 millimeter Allen head for spacing. I've got a 4 right here, so that's going to be close enough. What we'll do is just slide the sway bar link on just like this, and we'll tighten this grub screw down just enough so it's not wiggling all over the place. And we've got to set some spacing on this thing. Our initial spacing is going to be with about 5 millimeters of the sway bar sticking out of the end here. So what you can do is get a 5 mil Allen and stick it on the sway bar, and then move this thing so you got 5 mils poking out. So this one's only 4, so I'll just leave a tiny bit extra, and then we can tighten this thing down. So just double check here, make sure you got about 5 mils sticking out of the end. And that's going to be good enough for our preset. Later on down the line, when you're tuning, you can move this thing in and out, and that's going to change your stiffness. Go ahead and grab the next short arm here. It's a good idea to turn, go ahead and turn it so the grub screw is up. That way when you get it in the car, if you want to adjust it on the fly, you can find it a lot easier. And you want to make sure everything is even. So the same on both sides. And that looks pretty good. I'm using the Traxxas tool set. It's pretty nice because it's going to come with all the sizes you need to work on your Slash. You're not going to have to go find any extra tools, so I'll put a link to that too. Okay, go ahead and tighten these things down. There's our front sway bar. We'll do the same thing with the rear. In the rear though, we're going to make the sway bar pretty much flush with the end of this little ball joint here. So we'll just bring it all the way to the very top and tighten it down. And that's our preset for the rear. it's not protruding out, it's just completely flush there. Important thing is just that they're even on either side. So go ahead and set those down, and then we'll get the car in the frame and get them installed. We're going to go ahead and install the front sway bar now, which is this piece right here. We're going to need 2 of our little black screws and the 2.5 mil Allen. What you're going to do is feed these links right here through the support, just like this, and they're going to poke out the front. Okay, and this sway bar is going to wrap around the support. You're going to see that there's a little channel that this thing will sit in just perfectly. Then we're going to put in 2 of our screws. The screws are going to start in these little holes here, and it's very important not to get them completely tight. What you're going to do is tighten them down and then just barely back them off, because the sway bar needs to be able to rotate in that channel. If you get them all the way tight, you're going to lose all your suspension flex. Alright, so you'll want to tighten these screws all the way down until they touch the bar. Go ahead and tighten them down until you can't move the bar anymore, and then back them off just enough so it wiggles. You want them tight enough so the bar's not flopping around up and down, but also loose enough to where you get plenty of travel. Now we can go ahead and attach these to the front A-arms. I've got the car flipped upside down just so the camera angle is good. So these little bars, these links are going to move together. We're going to use the very closest hole to the body, which is right here and right here. These are the same size Allen as the top screws. They're going to be at 2.5. So we'll just thread these things all the way down, and you can get these completely tight because they're in the little pivot ball there. Just tighten this thing all the way down on both sides and do it right. It's going to be a little hard to start, especially using RPM arms, because there aren't as many holes underneath them. I'll send these screws in. Yeah, tighten them down until the ball touches the arm completely. You have to put a good bit of forward pressure on there. Alright, so they're nice and snug. Front sway bar is done. I'm going to make sure that the arms still move perfectly and there's no binding. If there is binding, then you probably have your black hold down screws a little bit too tight. Now we can flip it around and do the rear. The rear of my car already has a couple little screws in, so we're going to have to remove those. But the ones we're going to remove are here, and then we have the same little groove that the front had, where this bar is going to fit down inside there just perfectly. So get these screws out and put our new ones in so we can mount our rear sway bar. The rear sway bar is going to sit like this with these angled pieces facing up. Again, we're going to feed these through the support, and they're going to go towards the front of the car, towards the body of the car. And once those are in, we can go ahead and set up our 2 hold down screws. The rear has a little bit more area where you can move the sway bar side to side, so you just kind of want to have it centered. But since these screws are going to stay loose, it isn't too big of a deal. The sway bar will be able to move around as it needs to. So same as the front, just tighten this screw down until you can't move the sway bar anymore, and then back it off a hair. Okay, this part will be a little bit difficult because you've got to move both of the links at the same time. They move together, but we've got to get them up, and they're going to screw into the most inboard screw holes on the A-arms, just like the front. You might kind of have to grab them one at a time and guide them up. All right. At this point, if you have been bashing your car already, you might need to clean these screw holes out because they could be full of crud. But now we'll go ahead and these things threaded in. Same thing with the other arms. You're just going to put a lot of forward pressure on there to get the thread started. Once you get it started, go ahead and do the other side. You don't want to tighten that one all the way down until you have this other one started. And you can go ahead and tighten them all the way down. Same thing, you want to bottom out your little ball mounts on the A-arms. You want to get them all the way tight. Okay, once you got those all the way tight, go ahead and test your suspension travel. Make sure nothing's weird or binding up. And then we should be good to go. Go ahead and get this thing out on the road and see how it handles now.